Okay, moving on to 8.3, where we're going to talk about circles and composite figures. Composite figures are like shapes that include multiple shapes in them. So we'll get to those. So first of all, circles. So a little bit of terminology here. We've got this circle right here. You can imagine perhaps a pizza. And if you cut from the center of that pizza out to one edge, that length right here is called the radius. So the radius is the distance from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. If you took your cutter and went all the way across the pizza from one edge to the other edge through the middle, so from one edge through the middle and then to the other edge, that is the diameter. So it's the distance from one edge to the other going through the center. And the final bit of terminology is the circumference. So that would be the length if you were, let's say, to take a string and drop it all the way around this pizza. And then you could maybe, you could uncoil it and you could measure it. That distance all the way around the pizza is the circumference. So its circumference is the distance around the circle. Now, circles are really cool because they have a lot of formulas that we can use to calculate these things fairly easily. So for example, if you're looking for the circumference of a circle, all you need to know is its diameter or its radius. So circumference, capital C here, is going to be this number pi. So this symbol right here is pi. It's a number, a very specific number. So circumference is pi times the diameter. So all you have to do, if you want to find the distance around that circle, is know its diameter and multiply that by pi. Let's say you had the radius. Well, you can see from the example above, radius is from one center to one edge instead of from one edge of the circle all the way to the other edge. So I could have made a formula here that your diameter is always going to be your radius times 2, right? 2 times your radius. Because if you look in that picture, if I drew another radius here, now we've gone all the way across. So 2 times radius, or we could say radius then is, we could say a diameter, half of the diameter. So diameter divided by 2. So our circumference then, if circumference was pi times diameter, circumference is also going to be pi times 2 times r, or 2 pi r. So we have two formulas to use depending on whether we've been given a diameter or a radius. We have another formula that's important, and that's an area formula. So area is going to be the two-dimensional space that's enclosed by a circle. So if we have this circle here, we're talking, pretend that's a circle, please. We're talking about this area, this two-dimensional space that's enclosed inside it. And so the formula for area is pi, this number again, pi, times the radius squared. Okay, pi is approximately 3.14. So you can use 3.14 in all of these calculations. I encourage you to try this. Draw yourself a circle, any circle, and see if these formulas hold true for you. So use a pi value of 3.14. And what you should find is no matter how large the circle, these formulas for circumference and for area will always hold true. If you want an even more exact number for pi, many calculators, I think probably all scientific calculators also have a pi button. So for me, I just have a button on the top above the numbers that looks like this. On your calculator, it might be hidden in the second functions. So it might be, for instance, yellow above a button, and then you'll have to press the second function button first and then press the button to get the yellow above. So see if you can find it on your calculator. On my calculator, if I go pi and then hit equals, then it shows me pi, or at least pi to whatever that is, 9 decimal places. So I've got 3.141592654. Pi goes on forever and ever. So this still, even though I've got 9 decimal places here, I'm actually still dealing with an approximation. So do try to find that button on your calculator because it will make your work even more exact, and I'm happy to help you find that as well. So let me know if you need some help with that. Okay, let's do some questions. So using these formulas, we want to complete the following questions. We're going to round to the nearest 10th. So first one, we want to find the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 3.5 inches. Okay, so often what I like to do on the left is I just write down what we know. So we were told diameter is 3.5 inches. And I'm going to convert that to a decimal just to make my life a little easier on these problems. It's always good to convert to a decimal. So this would be the same as 3 5/10 or 3.5 inches. And we're looking for circumference. So our unknown here is circumference. So I'm just going to write C equals question mark. So I know the formula says that circumference is always pi times d. I'm going to use the formula where d is involved because I know d. And we're looking for circumference. So circumference is going to be pi times, well, our d was 3.5 inches. And so now on our calculator, you can either do 3.14 times 3.5, or what I'm going to do is hit that pi button and say pi times 3.5. And I get an answer of, and I'm not going to worry about rounding quite yet, so 10.99557, so on. Okay, so we're trying to round to the nearest 10th. So we're rounding to the 10th, which means we're going to look at the place value to the right of the 10th. That says to go up. We're already at 9. So that means we have to go one further in and make this. We have to think about our ones position then and round up our ones position. So we get 11.0, and this is in inches. Okay. Next question asks us to find a circumference of a circle. This time they've given us a radius. So the radius is 2.5 inches. And they want us to figure out the circumference. So using our formulas, which by the way are also on your formula sheet. So they're on the geometric formulas page. You'll find if you look down at the bottom, you'll see the formulas for a circle. So circumference is 2 times pi times r, which we also see up above there. So circumference is 2 pi r. So go ahead, pause this video and see if you can do this one on your own. Okay, and let's try this one together now. So we've got circumference is 2 times pi times r. R is 2.5 inches. You don't have to use the brackets here. It's just one notation for multiplying. So I've got 2 times my pi button times 2.5 equals, and I get 15.70796 and so on. And so if I'm rounding to the nearest 10th, I'm going to look to the digit to the right, and that tells me to keep it where it is. So it's going to be 15.7 inches. All right, let's move on to area. So now we're asked to find the area of a circle that has a radius of 7 centimeters. So they've told us that our value radius is 7 centimeters, and we're trying to figure out area. So if you look at your formula sheet or above in your notes, you'll see area is pi r squared. So area then is going to be pi times r, which is 7, and that r is squared. So the 7 gets squared. So on our calculators, we could do pi times 7 squared. Make sure you do pi times 7 squared and don't do pi times 7. Don't hit the equal sign first because you only want the 7 to be squared. If you do pi times 7 squared, I get 153.93804. Okay, so now we were told to round to the nearest 10th. And so I'm going to let that 9 rest. So the 9 stays as it is, and I get 153.9. Now, what are our units for area? Well, our radius was squared, which means our units are going to be centimeters squared. So anytime you're asked for an area, your units are always going to end up being squared. Anytime you're asked for circumference, your units will always stay as they were. So if you look up here, when we did circumference, our answer in these cases were in inches because we were given values in inches. Now that we're doing area, our units in this case were centimeters. We were given a radius in centimeters. So our answer then will be in centimeters. Okay, last one here for circles. We have a diameter of 4.8 centimeters. Tricky. And we're looking for area. We don't have a formula for area using diameter, but we do know this one here. We know diameter is 2 times r, or in this case, we're looking for radius. So radius is diameter divided by 2. The radius is always going to be half the diameter. So the first thing we want to do here is we want to figure out the radius. So the radius is going to be the diameter divided by 2, which is 4.8 divided by 2. And that gives us 2.4 centimeters. So now we know the radius. We can put it over here if we want. It's 2.4 centimeters. Now we can figure out the area. So area is pi r squared. So go ahead, pause this video and give this one a try. Okay, and let's do this one together now. So area is going to be pi times r was 2.4, and that 2.4 is going to get squared. So on my calculator, I'm going to do pi times 2.4 squared. And that gives me, it's okay if you round on the step. I just like to write it out first when I'm teaching. So we've got 18.09557 and so on. We were asked to round to the nearest 10th. So we're rounding to this position. This 9 tells us we're moving the 10th position up. And so we get 18.1. And now don't forget units. Units here would be centimeters squared.